A lot of delay. I hope that fixes. Oh,
Oh, and we are live.
we're
Well,
live! Yay!
yay. Thanks everyone for joining us today. Happy New Year, New You, calendar, New Year. I know that's like more than a mouthful. And people who know me, I should introduce myself. So I'm Deb. I'm the author of Your Goal Guide, a roadmap for setting, planning, and achieving your goals, and founder of the Deb Method. And some of you know that I decided to start the new year in December. So
December.
So some of my tribe started a little early and others are catching up. And for everybody, the calendar new year just started and we had so much fun at our last party. I said, let's do it again. So I've invited some amazingly, awesomely cool people today to join, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves. But the point to remember is when I did this party last month, I felt like I picked a social media friend. I picked a couple social media friends, some writing friends, and networking friends. And I'm like, let's try and mix it up and take one from each category again. So I'm happy since we decided I've known you the longest. Bizarre. Probably, I think 2007, 2008, because that's when I was doing fun screenwriting things with the Writer's Store. And go. And Kathie is this awesome entertainment professional who helps people get their scripts out there, pitch themselves to the world, and much, much more. So like I said, you're going to do a better job than me. So go.
Hi, I'm Kathie Fong Yoneda. I am based in Madeira right now, but I have to say that it's just like I'm in the room. Deb's been instructing me on the finer points of how to do this, because I am just a total nerd, not in a good way when it comes to computer. Anyway, I'm the author of Script Selling Game. Is it okay to just?
Yes, please.
You guys have seen my book. This is what it looks like. I started in the industry a long time ago from the bottom up, literally working as a typist and working my way up, eventually getting into the executive offices over at Disney Island Pictures. And one of the things that I guess I'm known for especially is that I have analyzed scripts and books for the motion picture and television industry for most of my career. And it's been something that I just so love doing. I love to read anyway. When I was a kid, my mom would always ask me, what do you want for Christmas? And it was always another book. So it was very easy for them to shop for me. So I just always have loved reading books. And I've also loved going to movies and watching television. And I'm not going to tell you my exact age, but it was sort of near the dawn of television. So I also do a lot of consulting, and I do workshops around the world. To date, I think I've now done workshops in 21 different countries. So I love doing that. I'm actually a mentor with the Rocaberti Retreat. I think some of you may have heard of that if you are into screenwriting or writing. What I love about the work I do is that I love seeing all the wonderful ideas that come out of these writers that I meet and I get to work with. It's really a thrill for me, especially when somebody comes in and they're brand spanking new and they're not quite sure where to start. And what I do is I talk to them a little bit about where they want to go. Where does their character want to go? It's one of those things where you have to learn to, at least it's something I've learned. I feel it's important that you get to know the writer a little bit before you start jumping in to tell them, well, you need to do this, this, and this, and this. You need to get to know them and what is their direction. I don't feel that writers learn the same thing the same way all the time. Sometimes I have to be a little bit more forgiving or maybe a little bit stricter with certain people. And it just depends. I have to kind of be able to gauge people's personalities. And I think that's something that we all have to kind of keep in mind, especially if you're going to be looking at something and saying, okay, I'm going to write it, and you want to know who your audience is. If you can gauge a little bit about the people around you or the people that you meet, it gives you a better idea of who your audience is going to be, whether you're writing for a book or for television or film or whatever.
And I think that also kind of applies to like anything in life. I mean, and one of the big things that I do with my book and my process is know thyself, know who you are, know your people, and then you can better speak to that. It starts with you in whatever projects you want to do, and then you can bring things out into the world. So now I'm going to play Flippity Flop with Shanil, and you are my newest friend of these groups, and I think Viv is somewhere in the middle. I didn't even realize that. And
That's
and
awesome.
Shanil and I are friends through our dear friend Jeff Pulver, who hosts this international networking night every Tuesday. And well, other than you're like the resident awesome science guy, and I put an extra comma in your name, please do introduce yourself, because in one thing, I have one other note on you. Of course I do. Who does? Is because Shanil is science and I'm communication, and apparently we're probably more alike than either one of us ever thought in the beginning, which I think is extra cool. So go.
Thanks, Deb. That was wonderful. I loved it. Good evening. My name is Shanil. Shanil pronounced exactly like the perfume, just spelled differently. And as Deb said, I'm an astronomer and science educator. I'm also the host and creator of a podcast called Our Island Universe. Excuse me. The central themes of the podcast, of course, are to promote the public understanding of science, to share how modern science is really a continuation of our species yearning to understand the cosmos, our place, and how we come to know where we are in the grand scheme of things. And so that's my passion, and dark skies, and how we don't see the stars when we do look up. I'll stop there.
Yeah, cool.
Nice. Okay, Viv, you're up. Wait, let me swap you guys around because we can.
That's great.
And so Viveka and I became friends when I was working for Social Media Examiner. She was writing for Social Media Examiner, and we had one of those. The first year that we met, I was looking around. There was a snowstorm, and you were late, and it was like the end of the last day, and I'm like, I cannot meet this conference without meeting Viv in person. And you were at a table, I think, with a dozen other people, and then we girl screamed, and we've been friends ever since.
Exactly. I love it. I remember that. I was stuck in Colorado Springs. We went to my in-laws because we thought, oh, there's always less snow there and it's closer to the airport, so we'll go there. And they literally, in their parking lot, had more snow than anywhere else in all of Colorado, like literally in their driveway. So yeah. Oh, well, good idea. But yeah, we've known each other for a long time. I'm Viveka von Rosen, Chief Visibility Officer and co-founder of Vengresso. It's 4 years, I think, since we've had Vengresso. I don't know why my internet is so bad right now, but there you go. I feel like I do like this, but I could do the robot. But
well, and Shanil was having that problem, and I forgot to give you props. You turned off the hockey game to be here tonight. And
so maybe that's what Viveka's doing. She's watching the hockey in the background.
Yeah. I am Canadian after all.
Oh, there you go.
Two Canadians. We're
Canadians.
Yeah, she's probably watching Team Canada play the Russians, right?
There we go. Yeah, totally. But yeah, we're Vengresso. We're the world's largest digital sales transformation company. We basically help people learn how to do virtual and remote selling online using LinkedIn and Sales Navigator and selling with video. So it's I mean, I kind of have survivor's guilt here, but we're doing really, really well right now because of the pandemic.
Well, I think there's no reason to be guilty about anything, because why, right? We can all agree some people had a really crappy 2020. Some people had a really, 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 really crappy 2020, and some people did really well. And part of why I did my whole start 2021 now in December was because people couldn't wait to get rid of last year.
Yes.
And whether you had a good year or a bad year, we've got these brand new. So whether you've got a 13-month year or a 12-month year for
or a 10-month year in Deb's case.
Yeah, I guess
11.
I'll do math later. But the point is, everybody can agree that the beginning of January is really a great time to reboot, refresh. It's really funny because I see people who I talk about goals and resolutions all year round, and I'm seeing all these posts and all these people like they discovered
What's your word?
And I'm like, they can have the first week in January. I'll take the rest of the year. But we had to celebrate because we want, and part of why I do these group chats is to introduce my people to each other and more people to the rest of the world. So I would like to know, what is one thing about each of you that very few people know that you think is very, would really kind of sum up who you are? And I think we're going to start with Shanil.
Okay, that's fine. I'll even go a little deeper. I won't resort to the Canadian hockey fanaticism. I won't even tell you the dark skies because I said that at the beginning. I'll go even deeper than that. I put the Fanatic back in Pearl Jam. I've seen them live something like 50 times.
Wow.
Since the early to mid 90s when I was an undergrad. Seen them in 3 different countries. I'll just stop there.
No, please add one more detail. We want to know.
So Pearl Jam is my band. It's the the soundtrack to my life, as it were. And I've been to Hawaii now to observe because there's 2 telescopes or two of many telescopes atop Mauna Kea that give us some of the darkest skies on planet Earth. 7 times. So I like to brag about that.
Well, I want to know what really set you on the path of astronomy, because it's not like, I don't want to say, it's not like typical. I mean, it is, because I know a lot of sciencey type people. I know that's not a word, but I made it up and cope. But what was that first moment when you knew that this was your path?
So I don't have that, and part of that reason I don't have it is I think astronomy chose me. My mom, who passed away a few years ago, would often relate this story that from when I was an infant and certainly very young, much younger than I have any recollection of, I would see the moon and ask for it. So I don't know, if that's just mother's stories or that she says after the fact, but I will certainly tell you that through middle school, I was fascinated about science generally, astronomy specifically. I remember conversations in class when we were talking about revolution versus rotation and figuring out how long a day, how long a year, those kinds of things are. And back then, being a geek, being a nerd, as Kathie said earlier, or showing any kind of affinity for science would have been a recipe to get bullied and picked on. Science and being a nerd and being a geek and being smart certainly, wasn't as cool then as it is now, thankfully, because of shows like Big Bang Theory, movies like Interstellar, and The Martian. So that fascination for astronomy is from when I was very young, and I knew that's what I wanted to do and what I wanted to pursue. When I got to high school, I recognized that if I really wanted to do astronomy, if you want to think of it, is that word is an old word. It's kind of like stamp collecting. You're not really doing any physics. And if I wanted to be an astrophysicist, which is what modern day astronomy is, then you should have an undergrad in physics, and that's the path that I then pursue. But I've been on this road from as long as I can remember. Wouldn't trade it for a moment, even though, of course, there's always ups and downs like in anyone's story.
Well, I love how you said that the path chose you. I'm gonna flip you and Kathie, because this is when you're aware, these things. So did entertainment choose you, Kathie?
I think it did. I think what happened, and the only thing I owe to my ex-husband. Just the fact that he, when I met him, I wasn't sure what I was going to do, but I was doing secretarial work, and he said, "Well, you could, if you go to the studios, they have a union, and so at least you get benefits and things like that, and health and all that kind of stuff." And so I went to Universal, and I'm not going to tell you the year, but it was a really, really long time ago. And it ended up that I got a job as a typist. And this was, well, you'll guess how old I am after that, but they had no computers. So, but I was happy.
The typewriter gave it away.
Okay, raise your hand if you used a typewriter in your life.
We're
trying to.
That's exactly right, Viveka. We're all dinosaurs. That's what that's
exactly.
I like to say Gen X, and our friend Steve Dotto calls it Boom X, which is the transition between Generation Xers and Baby Boomers. So, good. So, what is the thing that people don't normally know about you, Kathie, that you think is very indicative of who you are?
I think that's a hard one because I'm a fairly outgoing person. But I have to say I do have my moments when I need to have to shut down totally and just sort of be by myself. And I think most people think and know me, and you, Deb, especially should know it because you've seen me so many times at the writer's store. I'm very outgoing, but there is a side of me where I get very, very quiet and very, very still. And sometimes during those times, it's when I come out of it that I feel so much better. I have sort of a different maybe outlook on things. I feel a little bit freer. My mind feels a little freer. So I do think that that's something that happens to me every once in a while. It's not something that happens often, but I know that some of my close friends, not everybody has seen it. My husband has, but a lot of people don't know that about me, that they think that I'm just so outgoing that's just the way I am all the time. But there are times, and it happens probably once or twice. I think it's happened more in the last 12 months because of COVID, but
right,
where you just sort of go within yourself. And I suddenly, when I come out of it, I just sort of feel, okay, I feel better about this. I've been able to sort of allow myself to take everything in and not feel so pressured.
That's good. That's helpful. And one thing I know people have said to me is like, Deb, aren't you going nuts that you can't leave the house? And I say, are you kidding me? This is really an extrovert's dream. I think I put on makeup like more days now than I did pre-COVID because I would just batch my going out. Right. So, and again, it's a lot about finding that balance between being out there and being in there. But I love that you know that about yourself and that you've gotten so much power from that. Viveka, my friend, your turn.
Well,
you're like, how many more things can I come up with that Deb doesn't know about me?
I know, right? Well, so I was laughing because what Shanil said, I don't remember this because I was too young, but apparently mom was giving me a bath and I looked up and I saw the moon and I asked her if she would give me the moon. And she said, no, she couldn't. And she tried to explain why. And I said, that's okay. My dad will get it for me. So there you go. Daddy's girl right here.
But that's Dad's favorite story too.
What was that?
I said that's Dad's favorite story, I'm sure too.
Yeah. I think it was Mom's favorite. We had an interesting relationship, but it's and one of the things Oh, I'm getting feedback. It's probably me. One of the things that I think no one knows about me, because it's brand new, is over the past year, kind of as everyone has been talking about, we had all this lovely time to reevaluate our lives. And I don't know about you, but some of us put on the COVID-19, 20, 28. And so about 6 months into it, I was like, this is too much. So even though like I'm quote the LinkedIn expert and have been for the past 16 years, and I still, I'm still founder of Vengresso. That's still my full-time job. I started doing a program called 75 Hard, which I decided I liked the program, but I didn't like, as an older woman, again, whose age we will not say, but I did use a typewriter. It just didn't work for me. It was this very, very masculine and it's a personal toughness eating program, weight loss, exercise, but really it's about putting yourself first and getting yourself in shape. And that's really what I was beginning to do at the end of 2020, but I actually launched my new program on January 1st. So yeah, that's been kind of fun. That's been kind of fun and so not me. I mean, anyone who's known me has always been a little overweight, and I've always been on every diet ever, but not benefited from it and gained all the weight back. And so I thought, well, if I'm gonna be on a program, I'm gonna create it. Because that's me. Like, why would I follow anybody else's program? So I launched it. It's in beta mode with about 20 women, and it's so outside of my comfort range. It's something that I really, really wanted to build. So yeah, that's what I'm doing. And it's only for women. I've got a couple 45 plus ladies because they're friends of mine and they wanted to be in it. But really, it's only for women 50 years or older. So it's kind of fun. It's just in beginning stages. I don't even have a logo yet. I have a Facebook page. I'm supposed to have an Instagram page. Sorry, Sue. I'm working on the app, but it's completely. Heck, no one knows about it, Deb.
Well, I was really excited because I saw you posted in your Goal Guide group. And I'll do just a little commercial. If you're working through your Goal Guide, there is a Facebook group where you can share your progress and ask questions. And I was so excited. So join. I was so excited when you posted that. And I'm like, ooh, something else to talk to them about. In all honesty, I did join for fun, but I guess, do I have to answer this? So I went through a phase, it was a year ago, October. It was 3 months before my book was coming out. And I said, I'm going to have my picture taken a lot. I better like how I look. So I went through my health kick 15 months ago. Yeah. So I joined more as a lurker and to support you, because one of the things that I said was, thank goodness I got into that healthy habit before COVID, or else I would need, 64 vital? I would need like 128 vital. It's so, and I talked about personal goals last night on the Twitter chat. It is so important to like the skin that you're living in, because it impacts so many other layers of your life.
Everything.
And, yes. So, Viv, you took something that existed and you made the women over 50 version of it?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, because, I thought it was such a powerful program for me. So any healthy, vital woman, or any man, woman under 50, or any man should totally check it out. It's 75 hard, hashtag 75 hard. Andy Frisella put it on. But as a woman over 50, recovering from a hip replacement, there was a certain way that he's very masculine. And it just turned me off, I gotta say. And there were some situations where it was really perilous as a woman 50 plus. And I just didn't want, I got so much benefit out of the program. I wanted other women to benefit from it. And my feeling was, because I almost did, that they probably wouldn't carry through with it because there was a lot of shaming and things like that, which as a woman, the ladies on this call know we get enough shaming. We don't need our freaking fitness guru to shame us. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to make a 50 plus program based on 75 hard, completely open about that, not trying to steal anything from Andy. But you know, it was a market that wasn't being served. And I thought, what the heck?
And one thing that I know, because when I started my first goal group, I said, you know, set and achieve your goals, but I wasn't going to do anything I didn't ask my people to do. So there's definitely strength and power in not only standing behind what you're teaching, but being.
I have to stick to it. I can't quit this one, you know.
I can't quit this one.
I can't quit this one.
Love it. That is amazing.
And I probably have to do it for the rest of my life, especially if I start monetizing it.
Well, the thing that you didn't mention, because you were talking about space travel and getting the moon, you do what I call extreme sports. Do they call them extreme sports? I mean, you do skydiving and parasailing and other like amazing, ridiculous things that I wouldn't do in regular times. So how did that
the hang gliding?
Yes, the hang gliding. I mean, but
that was my dad. Again,
dad still does that, right?
Yeah. Well, he's probably finally at 94 years old realized he probably can't do that anymore. But 92, 2 years ago, we just got how Facebook gives you the year in review. So it keeps popping up. This trip we took around Christmas, New Year's of 2 years ago. And dad was still hang gliding 2 years ago. So that was pretty amazing. Yeah, he's finally winding down, but you know, he's 94. He deserves it. And so that was dad's way of giving me the moon, right? He's been hang gliding since he was in his early 50s. And so he introduced me to it when I was 15. And I flew pretty regularly and competitively until I was about 24. And then a whole bunch of life things happened and I crashed my hang glider, and the team I was flying for said, we can't afford you anymore. You keep crashing. And so I dropped it for about 25 years. And then when dad turned 90, he was the oldest living hang glider pilot. So we had the Guinness Book of World Records out there. And I'm like, well, if dad's going to fly, I'll take a tandem, because I hadn't flown in 25 years. So I'll take a tandem and we'll see how it goes. And I just fell absolutely in love with it. I made my husband take it up too. And so now all of us do it. But of course we haven't been hang gliding this year because thanks COVID.
We have to have your dad on this show.
I know. He almost wandered in here twice.
Well, the next time he wanders in, just put him on camera.
I'll pull him over.
So, Kathie, we know what Viveka's focusing on this year. Can we say that that's your other big goal is to build this?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Kathie, what's your big goal for this year? And Shanil, you know I'm going to ask you next, so start thinking.
I think my big goal is actually I am trying to come up with a plan on how I'm going to, in a way, retire. I'm at a certain stage in my life where I really, I don't know, I'm starting to look at things. I'm being more selective. And I think that's one thing this pandemic has taught all of us. We really have to be very selective about what we're doing. And so since I'm at that stage in my life where I feel, okay, I want to do things plan them in a certain way so that I can just, move gracefully into retirement. And it's kind of hard because I so love everything that I do. But at the same time, I also realized that, in all fairness to my husband, I think he'd like to have me around the house a little bit more. Maybe not quite as much as this pandemic, but
Balance.
I mean, there are, because I travel a lot. I mean, I've been to like 26 or 27 different countries now. And every year I go abroad usually to Europe or to Asia.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's sometimes we can't really afford to have him come with me, not to mention the fact that he doesn't like to sit in my class because he couldn't care less about screenplays and novels and stuff like that. But it's just one of those things. I want to be able to sort of enjoy spending more time with him, and also with my sisters, because my sister, the age range between me and my youngest sister, and I have three. There's four of us all together. So in between, it's 7 years. I'm the oldest, and my youngest sister is 7 years younger. And so all of us, my sisters and I, during this pandemic, we've been talking about that. What are we going to be doing in the next few years? Because we do want to spend more time together, because this pandemic has not allowed that. And family means a lot. My writers mean a lot to me, but that's something I can do like we're doing now, over the internet. But with my sisters, I really want to be able to do things face to face with them, and talk with them, and laugh with them, and cry with them. It's just one of those things. I'm trying to figure out a good way to be able to gracefully not do as much work. And it's hard for somebody who's been a workaholic like I am.
Well, I think that is a wonderful goal. And I think reprioritizing, everybody has been forced into it, and reframing your life. And somebody posted, I'm trying to remember. Oh, I did in my Right On group. I posted, I'll be very happy if I accomplish blank in 2021. This is what everybody posted last year. And I said, wasn't that a million years ago? And someone commented, yes, it was a different lifetime.
Yeah.
And whereas I do believe that the way in which we pursue our goals may have changed, the who we are and the what we love, that's consistent, the things that matter to us. And it's when you make a plan, sorry, I'm going into goal mode. You start with that focus, that thing that drives you. And if what's driving you is more family time, then you do make that plan to make it happen. So you get gold stars on your goals, Kathie, because it's realizing the priority, I think, is the first step. And a lot of people never get there. So go you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that, because it's been hard. I love my work, and I love working with writers, but at the same time I realize it's time for me to start backing off and start doing some things that really fulfill me from within, especially because I do have to, with my work, I sometimes am away for months at a time if I'm overseas. So it's something that I've been sort of thinking about, and you actually brought it to the surface, because I haven't really said it to anyone.
I love that.
I feel so blessed that we got that from you. So you're going to have to please keep us posted.
Okay, I will.
Okay. Shanil.
So, my goal moving into 2021 is to remember the lessons and the things that I learned in 2020. You mentioned a while ago, 2020, for many people it's very bad. For some, it may have been very good. But I think for all of us, there were a lot of things we learned about ourselves, and the things that we maybe had taken for granted prior to COVID. And COVID put a lens onto that to tell us what truly matters. And my worry with not so much with the getting over COVID is that we're going to forget the lessons we learned in COVID. Going to a movie theater matters to me. Going to a concert matters to me. And those are things that we had taken for granted as just a fait accompli. It's just always going to be there, and it took something like this maybe to realize. But then there are also personal lessons I learned about me. through the pandemic. Strengths that I didn't realize I had. And I think it'd be a shame that we pretend all that went away and we didn't learn that. So I want to continue those lessons. That's my goal, and not forget the things I learned.
Yeah.
That it's really, really good point. I'm thrilled. And I think we're still going to be in this phase for a little bit longer, but having that knowledge to keep it moving forward, even as we come out of it, I think is very, very powerful.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really write resolutions or anything, but I kind of did that reflection on the year, and I on a Facebook post that I posted on the 30th, not the 31st, and and the analogy I use is that COVID was like an X-ray on our society.
Yeah.
And, it revealed a lot about everything. It revealed things about us, but it also revealed a lot of rot and decay in our society that, maybe we knew about but ignored or swept under the rug. I'm not being political. I'm just going to tell you 3 facts, and you can judge however you wish. For my kids that live in rural Virginia, they were very slow to close.
Mm-hmm.
And those schools weren't very slow to close because they didn't listen to the science. They were very slow to close because many of those kids get their food from that school. And if schools close, they don't get meals, right? That tells us what our values as a society are. I know a lot of friends that were laid off, first furloughed and then non-renewed through COVID. And in a country where health insurance is tied to employment, I think that's particularly cruel. Right. Yeah. I think, COVID, and I'll stop there. I'll just say there's a lot of things we learned. And that's my worry, coming back to the point I said before. All this rot and decay is there to pretend it all goes away when everyone's inoculated. I think that's a service to what we've learned. If we come out of this having made a list of all the inefficiencies and rot we have in our society, and then make it as a goal, Deb,
nice.
for the next generation, then I think we would have really scored a home run in how we dealt with it. But jury's out on that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna course correct you a little bit. I'm not disagreeing with anything that you said, but I'm me. We go for the optimism. Yeah. What do you think was your biggest win? And it could be personal, professional, or you can give me one of each from last year. Because, again, a lot of people had devastating years. A lot had wonderful, some in the middle. But I think there's joy in whatever kind of year you had, right? So what was your joy?
Is that, you're asking me first?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I posted this in your forum, and others, because I didn't give context, so people could certainly have projected and judged me being an ass. But I said in response that my biggest goal was surviving 2020, and it's because of everything I just said, right? Plus all the family things, right? You could, again, and that's not a negative comment. That's not a pessimist comment. It took great strength for a lot of people to get to December 31st or November 30th, wherever you call your New Year's Eve, right? It took strength. It took courage. It took bravery. And for a lot of people, maybe those were things that they didn't recognize in themselves. So it's not a facetious comment. It wasn't, a smart ass comment. I was being sincere.
And I completely agree with you. And I celebrate all wins, as you know, as I think all of you and many of the people watching know. If you made it through the day, through the week, through the month, through the year, sometimes that's the biggest win you have.
Yeah.
And one thing that I thought, here, I'll go foursquare on us again. One of mine was, yes, my book came out and I did talking and all that fun stuff, but I met a lot of really cool people that I wouldn't have met And I've developed relationships with more people. I've had more conversations with, I reconnected with a friend from high school because somebody in the group that I'm in with Chanel invited me to a marketer meeting. And this marketer, we had two friends in common. And one was one of my closest friends from high school who I lost touch with.
Wow.
I mean,
Yeah, no, it's amazing. I will also say that, you know, it's not just adults. You know, my eldest is I have three kids, 11, 9, and 6, boy, girl, boy. And so, you know, I was talking to my eldest, and we were kind of having this kind of, you know, conversation, you know, in reflection, but not really, you know, characterizing as such with an 11-year-old. And the things that, you know, he told me, I recognize that he came up with great strength. You know, these are kids, and my kids are like every other American and Canadian kid and every kid around the world. They didn't have Halloween. They didn't have birthday parties.
Right.
Right. And Christmas and Thanksgiving were very tight, if anything. And so, you know, they come up with these skills, I think, on how to handle that, you know, how to move these things forward. And it becomes like that badge of honor, I think, that you can move forward no matter what that is. Next time trouble or difficulty comes along the road, you can actually point back, you know, to this, you know, 12-month period, the, you know, 9 plus the 3 that we're going to see before, you know, we get significant inoculations, to point to how we got through that. So that's a win to me. I think the things you said, Deb, you know, there were the migration to online, of course, has been happening for more than 20 plus years now. Yeah. I think the way we've learned to integrate technology as a result of COVID are going to be big wins. I think how we do the world of work is going to be significantly different post-COVID. How we travel for conferences, I'm seeing that in my astronomy community, where and this was going on, of course, pre-COVID because it was the impact of climate. But COVID just accelerated conversations like that. Yeah. And so there's going to be the interweaving of technology into our society already was there, but it's going to become even more so. And I think a lot of that is positive.
Yeah.
As you say.
And Viv mentioned before, and one of the things I do is I do profile writing for Vingresso. So we're 100% virtual company anyway. So the transition into the workplace did give it a bit of an advantage. And I feel a lot of people caught up or are starting to catch up. Maybe.
Yeah. You know, our virtual friend, he's a real guy, but the virtual shows he created, you know, Jeff Pulver, you know, there's a lot of, again, for the creatives, it was, you know, there were other avenues that they could pursue for their creative outlets. So many shows, you know, started off on Zoom, but then have migrated to other platforms. But, you know, the creative types too recognized, you know, because you could see Stephen Colbert and, you know, Trevor Noah doing what we're doing right now. Right. So you don't necessarily, the gatekeepers are falling away. Is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Yes. And the more technology advances,
right,
the fewer the gatekeepers as well. But now it's, someone asked me, I was interviewed last week, is it too late to start a blog? And I said, no. Are you kidding me? Tomorrow is the only time that it's too late to start anything.
Yeah. You know, I like what Shanil said earlier, though, about like, let's hope that the things that we've learned, because I think we've all learned something, if not a lot, let's hope we don't forget it. And I hearken back to all of these spy movies where, you know, the way that they make sure that it never happens again is they release it on YouTube. But then, you know, the news cycle happens and 6 minutes later, everyone forgets, right? Yeah, Kathie, you probably know something about that, right, with scripts. And I mean, that is my fear, is not COVID itself. It's that what we've learned about ourselves, for good or evil, that we forget it. And then we go, okay, well, yeah, that pandemic was 22 minutes ago. And, you know, so now I'm going to go on and try and do things like I used to. And then it would be a real tragedy. It's already a tragedy because of, to Shanil's point, you know, the folks who lost their jobs, lost their homes, can't feed their kids. That's very tragic. But also, what did we learn about ourselves? And then I'm not going to get political, but I could.
We have one of the rules for the Zula is no politics.
Yes.
And every now and then, and really, 4 years ago, November, Jeff and I threw a conference a week after that election.
Yeah.
We had to make that a rule.
Oh, yeah.
We had to make that a rule because, we're all, whatever the situation, we're all dealing with life in our own way, and we have to keep things but it is pretty amusing because there are people who try and speak in riddles. It's always kind of funny. So Kathie, notice me completely changing angles. What was your biggest win last year?
Well, it didn't start off, I didn't think of it as being a win until I got to the end of the year, I think. But, for many of us, a lot of us were, we didn't have as much work as we usually had. And I know, like I said, I usually do a lot of traveling to teach and everything. And all of that was, gone. And then what was interesting is it was about around April or May, I started getting all these emails from all these writers, some of them that have been my clients for a number of years, and some of them that I had met at workshops, at the writer's store, and at places like that would just, oh gosh, I can't stand this COVID thing. What's going on? And I know I should write, but I don't know what to do. I don't know how to start and everything. And what I did, there's so many people that asked me about it, that what I did was I just said, well, I'll tell you what, why don't you come up with three different projects, three different ideas, and just write 2 paragraphs on each one and send it back to me. And I didn't charge them for it because they were out of work, most of them, Mm-hmm. They sent it back to me, and I picked the one that I thought had the most potential. Mm-hmm. And I said, okay, here's the one, now and I did that for free, but I told them, I said, what I'll do is I'll cut my rate in half if you at least come up with, if it was a screenplay, they had to come up with, say, a 3-page outline, 3 or 4-page outline on it. And if it was a book, they had to come up with just sort of a framework, an outline framework of the story. And I charged them half price on it. And I was stunned at how many people took advantage of it. That's awesome. And they just said, it makes me feel that I can do it. I can create without having to worry, I guess, so much about how much is it going to cost them and everything. And I just sort of, I did it. I didn't really think about it that much about it, but it's just that I started to notice, and then I guess some of these people told their friends. I've been pretty busy this year, maybe not as much as I usually make, but it's warmed my heart to know that people who really want to write aren't going to let the pandemic stop them from doing it. They're going to make the most of this year. And I think it warms my heart to, when I see all these things coming back to me, just saying, okay, here's my idea. Here's my first 2 chapters or whatever. Mm-hmm. It just makes me feel like I made this pandemic not so horrid for them. And it really kind of made them think about the positive about who they are and what their goals are.
Kathie, that was so well said. And I love how you provided hope to so many. And, to be honest, when we were kind of saying we're, looking how we're going to look back on this time period, I want to see those books that were written in this time, right? I want to see the films that were set in this time and to know the stories that were going on. Oftentimes, there is, of course, there is a delay before we get the reflection of how our poets and how our authors captured the time, but those stories haven't come out yet. So I can't wait to hear and see those stories. Sorry,
I know one of them is a finalist for one of the big screenwriting competitions.
To be turned into film.
Wow!
I just got an email 2 days ago from one of the finalists.
Wow,
That's fantastic.
So who knows?
Look for the good and see how you can push people to the gift of time. I think that's one of the blessings from last year.
Definitely.
Is and even people who I say you didn't commute. This is one of my favorite time swap things. Okay, what was your commute?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it was an hour, a half hour each way, an hour a day. That's 5. You got 5 bonus hours a week, even if you only use 1 or 2 of them on something to build for your future. It's 1 or 2 hours you didn't spend before.
But what's interesting to me, I was on a Clubhouse chat the other day, and we're all like, oh, we have all this extra time. We're going to be creative. We're going to write our book. I finally finished the 2nd edition of my book over Christmas, but we did have more time. Well, did I learn another language? No. Did I write a new book? No. Did I learn how to paint? No. Did I learn how to sew? No. Did I write poetry? No. But formulating, did I create a whole new health and wellness and fitness program? Yes. But for the first 6 months, but for the first 6 months, I did nothing. Nothing.
Right. But that's because we were living day to day, don't you think? Because, right now, if we look at it from the perspective of today, we had that 9 months, and you could say, right, I could have taken a class and written all that stuff. But, in that moment, we were literally living day to day.
PTSD. I mean, did anyone else feel like it was the zombie apocalypse back in March? Like we got out of it, but I seriously was feeling like it was the zombie apocalypse.
Do you remember those Mary Cuomo? I'm sorry, Deb, we're doing politics. But those Mary Cuomo Twitter presentations with the PowerPoint, and the first slide was today is Wednesday, May 3rd. I love that because they told me the date. I forgot.
Exactly. Because otherwise it was Blur's Day.
Viv, I did not have that problem.
I know you didn't.
Because so my book comes out in January. Fortunately, I was able to get out to a few bookstores and do some conferences. And we were at different conferences the end of February, which was the last
Thank God for that. Yeah.
And like a week later, I said, hey, I got from one of the chambers I speak at regularly. You want to do a lunch and learn? And
I remember that.
I had been, I don't want to say resistant, but I never had time to do online speaking.
Oh, wow.
Until it became the only option. And now it's like, Shanil and I both teach for Pulver EDU. I'm starting classes for that next Monday. And there are just so many, this was my forced into the thing that I should have been doing for years. So now this year, I'm looking to up level. But to your point, Viv, I spent the first 3 months cheerleading people, get my book. It will help you. Yes. But a lot of people were still in that PTSD phase.
Yes. Yeah.
And then in the summer, I did July is the new January because I figured people were ready and some were, but a lot still weren't. I don't think it was really in the fall that after the 6-month mark that people started saying, okay,
now it's not going to pass anytime soon.
Right.
And even more so, though, going into the holidays that were not very holiday-ish.
No.
Into now, it's like, okay, brand new year. I'm setting my resolutions. I'm going to do X this year. And if you do X this year, great. But if you only do W, that's fine too. It's important to figure out what I like. I can't help but talk with my hands. to take the time and say, okay, the first thing you should do is count your wins from last year in surviving, number one, healthy, number two, creating X, Y, and or Z. Great. What are you going to do in the future? What's going to be the thing that you're going to hang on to create for others moving forward? So I think that I hope, people are all jazzed and ready. And when they are, I'm here to cheer them on and motivate them.
Yeah.
And why not?
Yeah. Yeah.
So what is the one thing? Okay, it's a two-part question because we're getting to an hour, and I could do this all day, as I'm sure my dear friends probably could chat all day as well. What is one thing that you are going to do, create, be this year, and what's one tip that you want to share to help those who are watching really kick New Year, New You into jumpstart mode?
Yeah.
Dev.
Well, I think I already talked about that. So yeah, I mean, the development of this program, and my tip would be, I wasn't the LinkedIn expert when I got the Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube handle. I had to fake it till I make it. And so one way of doing that, of course, is positioning yourself as that expert or that influencer or that leader on LinkedIn. See how I went finally 360 back to what I actually do for a living? Hey, which reminds me, I need to I'm still waiting my logo, but so I think I think if you have enough faith in yourself, in your ability, in what you're going to be creating, to add at least an experience section on your LinkedIn page, you don't have to put it on your headline yet, but that kind of helps you to manifest it in real life. It's almost like a modern day vision board, So yeah, position yourself as the expert or the influencer you hope to be, if you want to be that. Some people don't. I can't imagine that, but never.
In the class that I'm teaching, a Pulver EDU, is my vision board.
Nice.
Vision to Goaltopia.
I love it.
So
I wish I went to a college like that. Man, that's freaking cool.
Yeah. I'll put the link to it in here. And actually, Jeff is my guest on next week's Goal Chat Live. So we'll talk more about that. But Jeff is, he's so many things. But he was one of the pioneers of the internet, the free internet.
Wow.
And he started doing events and conferences back in the 90s to bring people and their top level skills together. And he reinvented himself as he basically started a daily, it's every day but Friday he goes live, and it's a different sort of a show each day, including these Tuesday night Zulas, these international community gatherings. But they said, who wants to teach? And Shanil is teaching science, right? And I said, I was so busy with the start of the year in December, I said, okay, in January. So I'm alternating between my vision board workshop and my mission and motto workshop. And I'm very excited because
that's so cool.
It's, I guess, to answer the question. So it's up-leveling. I'm speaking more this year from a strategic point of view. So that's my goal, is to talk more, which I guess is always a goal for me. Okay. Shanil, what are you creating? And you can talk about your classes real quick if you want as well. And what is your tip for the new year that I can share with the world?
Okay. So they're all, of course, related. And, in recognizing, that, these gatekeepers are falling away, it's a positive thing, but it also became an excuse, I think, for me in the past for not pursuing different ideas I have. And I think, getting back to the theme one of the themes we were talking about before, is technology has leveled that playing field. And now the only barrier is me. And so that means there are opportunities. I don't need to be in a university to teach the class I want to teach. In fact, in many ways, even in that setting, you're still confined in terms of how you deliver the class you want to deliver. And when you're your own boss, right? You can do it however you want. And so I think that technology has become liberating. There are things that I didn't do before or thought I couldn't do before that I absolutely can do, like teaching. And so the class, it's a four class, weekly class beginning the 10th, beginning next Sunday. It's Ancient Skies. So we're going to go, we're going to travel virtually, of course, to Angkor Wat in Cambodia, to the pyramids in Egypt, stone monuments in England, Stonehenge, of course, being the most prominent. We'll go to Chaco Canyon and see the Sun Dagger. And the question we're going to ask is, how did these ancient cultures view the night? How did they make sense of what they saw? And so, that's a kind of a class, and those are conversations I love, but never found a way to do it. And so this is, for me, it's nirvana. This is exactly the kind of thing I want to do, and finding those ways to channel it, to have that opportunity to share those stories. The tip is that we're much stronger than we think. I think, that's the second time I'm saying that. Maybe it's the second time I need to hear that, but it's probably the second time others need to hear it too.
Yeah.
Is that, we are our biggest cheerleaders when we want to, but we rarely are, but we're the worst criticizers. And there's so much we can do when we focus on the skills we have, and we have skills.
Yeah.
Okay, so the tip is focus on the skills you have.
Yeah, sure.
Well,
I was going to say, that we're stronger than we are. That you're stronger than you are, and you can then define stronger, however way you want.
Okay, I made it better.
It was great the way you said it, Deb. It was just
But your tip, forming it into the form of a tip, is did I typo it? No, I didn't. You're stronger than you are. Remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Teamwork. Okay, Kathie, what you got?
Well, I have to say, creatively speaking, I kind of referred a little bit to it, and it seems to have really worked. And that is, especially if you're a writer, it works. I think it also works if you are trying to figure something out that's going on in your life. And that is to come up with 3 different possibilities of what would happen with the problem that you're trying to solve. And that's to come up with 3 different paragraphs of, okay, if I did this, this would happen, this would happen, this would happen. And I think that that's one of the ways, at least for a writer, but also too as a human being, what are our options? Come up with 3 options. That's the same thing as a log line for your life. And if you do that, I think that really, it gives you choices, and it really makes you think about what it is that the problem is, and what is it that you feel strikes you as what it is that you're going to do, and how you're going to create it. And as far as a tip goes, I've always told people that when they start doubting themselves, and boy, were there a lot of us doubting ourselves this past year.
Right.
We've got to sometimes put ourselves in a character, and think about the character, think about who we are. What do you think is the best thing for that character to do? Because you're thinking of yourself, but you're putting it at a little bit more of a distance.
Yeah.
And I have found that is what I sometimes do, is I think sometimes, and sometimes it's not even a character. I oftentimes will think, what would my dad do? Or what would somebody that I respect, admire, someone who I think has gone through a lot of problems and come out of it. And you think about who it is that has been powerful in your life, that made your life different, and think about what would they do. And that sort of helps you, I think, to make yourself a better person. And also, I think it gives you the respect that you need to go ahead and say, yeah, I can do it. It gives you the strength to be able to say, yes, I can do that.
Nice.
Yeah.
And Kathie, you don't realize this, but the E in the Deb method is explore your options. So it really is about.
Nice.
So you actually shared one of my favorite tips without realizing you were sharing it, because it's what I was talking about before. Know yourself, know your mission, determine your mission, explore your options. How do you want to get that out into the world? And then brainstorm your path to make that plan. And it's really, we have a brand new year. Doesn't matter when you started it. We have this blank slate and infinite possibilities, and we need to give ourselves that gift of time, but also the strength to know who we are, that we can do, claim it, seeing how I'm like putting everybody's tip together, claim who you are, know you have that, have the strength to do that, figure out what that looks like, and move forward. Oh, right. So before we wrap, I just want, first of all, thank you all so much. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, very cool.
Catch up with awesome people and share them. Why don't you tell people where they can find you, and if you have a final thought, and then I will wrap things up. So Kathie, let's start back with you. Where can people find you?
At KathieFongYoneda.com. And, I have to say I'm a little slow with the internet here, but, with doing creative things, as Deb will tell you. But I will eventually get back, and hopefully, I would love to be able to work with, I love, even if you decide not to use my services, it's just that I really enjoy talking to people and hearing what they have to say and their world and where they're at. It's something that invigorates me and makes me feel like, wow, this is something that's exciting to listen to, because I think that's what especially, it's mostly writers I talk to. I think writers, they go through this self-doubt circulation so much. And so I think that even if they don't, even if they decide that they aren't going to use me as somebody to help them with it, at least I hope it gets them moving and in the right direction, because it helps them to decide what works, what doesn't work, or what maybe I should change this or that. I just I love talking to creative people. It makes my mind move in so many directions, and it excites me.
Well, and you should always be doing the things that get you excited.
Yes.
Absolutely. Shanil, where can people find you?
So you can find me as Our Island Universe on Facebook and Twitter. You can also find me on my website, as you had, chanelv.com. That's probably the clearinghouse for everything. And then my podcast, also called Our Island Universe, you can find on Spotify or SoundCloud.
And final thought?
Final thought, this was a lot of fun. I had a great time. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you for joining me. I feel like I should share. This is how I asked Shanil to be on this show. I was talking to Jeff's sister, Lauren, who's doing the programming, and Shanil was helping her. And I said, thank you so much. And she said, thanks, Shanil. I said, well, thanks, Shanil. You want to be on my show? And he said, okay. And 2 days later, I got a message. What did I agree to? And I said,
what am I doing?
Well,
That's great.
The content is I wanted to make sure I had the date and time. I didn't want to let you down.
Let's go with that. The way I said it is funnier.
Yeah. And probably more closer to the truth.
Viveka.
So you can find me at Vengreso, VENGRESO.com for anything, virtual or remote selling related or anything LinkedIn related. And then if you're a woman 50 plus who's like been a yo-yo dieter your entire life and you're like, I'm going to freaking beat this year. I popped the link into private chat. I know this is totally last minute, Deb, but that's our private Facebook group. And I would love to see you there. And we've got, like I said, it's in beta mode. We've got 13 amazing women in there right now, and it's just a good, safe community.
All right, and it's in here without any description, but I will.
Yeah, I know. It was as fast as we could do, but it's in the timeline, so they can just click on it.
And I'll put it in the recap as well. Thank you all so much for joining me today. And if you're watching, thank you for joining us as we celebrate New Year, New You. Again, I'm Debra Eckerling. I'm founder of the Deb Method, and you can watch the recap and any of my previous lives. Just go to thedebmethod.com/blog. And if you want to learn more about me and the Deb Method or my book, if you go to yourgoalguidebook.com, that will take you to Amazon, or you can find it at your favorite bookstore. Again, guests, you're wonderful. Thank you so much for joining. And everybody who's watching, thank you so much for being here today. We get a brand new year, which means a blank slate to which we can create anything. And I think I chose very well of my guests today, coming at it from different perspectives. But I think that the universal, I use the word universal, so see how I did that? The universal message is you have options. Yes. Look at what that is, reach out, create something, enjoy what you love, and put it out into the world. And just remember, you can do it.
Yay.
Hey, okay, thanks everybody. I'll see you next week. I'll see you next week for Gold Chat Live, and every Sunday night, 7 p.m. Pacific, on Twitter for the Gold Chat Twitter chat. Have a great week, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, Deb.
Thanks, Deb.